morning. I've got this beautiful girl to help me. Oh, she nearly fell over then. I've got this beautiful girl here to help me today because I will be showing this outfit among other outfits that I have got from Bella's Doll Clothes, but that's not what we're really looking at today. What we're going to look at today, I'm going to need to turn around for this, so I've only made one at the moment because I'm going to make the other one in the video so she can have a pair. And this is what we are looking at. We are going to be making some little elf shoes. So I hope you can see that well enough there. You'll see it in the thumbnail anyway, and you're going to see it when we're actually making it. So I've made some little elf slippers. They're not shoes, they're slippers, slipper socks perhaps, something like that, just for a bit of a fun, because as I say, I got this gorgeous outfit from Bella Doll Clothes. I've made her some nice stripy over the knee socks there, and I thought she needed some little elf slippers to go with it. So this is what we're going to be making. It's going to be in a 4-ply yarn, so hopefully if you're okay with 4-ply yarn, if you're not used to it, just go for it. You can see I've still got my Christmas earrings in here because I'm doing the videos back to back. So we're going to get some little elf shoes going, and I'll see you with Mariah in a moment. Well, here we are with elf take 3. I don't know what I did. I don't know whether perhaps I'd just not pressed record or whether I deleted it after the fact. I have no idea, so I've had to start again. So here we have Mirai in her gorgeous little dress here, made by Cheryl, and this is what we are going to be making. I made her some little tights out of some socks there, and we're going to be doing these little elf slippers. I've actually already completed one almost, but as I say, I don't know whether I don't know what I did, so I've got to do the video again. So we're going to just take the slipper off her foot, and we're going to pop her to one side. I think we'd call it a slipper, certainly not a shoe, because obviously it's soft bottomed. But here we have a little elf slipper, that's what we're going to call it. So we'll pop that there. We're going to be using a 4-ply yarn. I have some green and some red here, and your hook size is a 2.5 millimeter. If you don't want to go that small, you may get away with a 3, but you need to keep checking the size on the doll before you do that. Only got a little bit of red left, so I should have enough for what I want to do, otherwise I'll be unpicking the one I made earlier. Obviously I've got a little stitch marker, I've got some yarn, that's just to sew on some of these little beads for the bead detail, but if you've got some little bells, that would be nice. If I'd got all the same colour bells, I would have done bells, but my tiny bells are like a mixed colour, so that's why I didn't do them. And we have our needle, which is a magnet, so I'll stick it in there. That stuck a little bit harder than I thought, so beads went flying. So we'll pop that one to one side, we don't need that. Got some scissors, just looking whether I got a pen. I can turn around and get one of those. It's a pencil, but it will do, just to mark off when I'm doing some of the rows, that is all. So my pattern is over there in a very rough form. In fact, I might put it to the other side of me because it's a little bit easier to read on that side. I will try and get that out as a pattern as the same time as the video goes out. That is the aim, and it'll be on my website to actually purchase if you do want a written pattern. So let's get going. These are also in UK terms, I must remind you on that, because I know sometimes forgotten, and I need to make sure everybody knows. I'm just checking it's actually recording. I'm just standing up. Hope I'm not knocking the table. Yes, it is actually recording, so we're okay. I can get on with it. So should we move that over there so you can still see what we're up to, but it's not in the way too much. We don't really need the red yet either. Now I will keep trying this on the foot as I go. I would recommend that. In fact, I'm going to pinch Mariah's foot now, so excuse me for this, Mariah. I said these little socks I made, they're literally out of some children's socks I got, and then I turned them into dolly socks. It's a great way to get stockings and socks. Right, so here is the foot, and we're going to keep measuring it as we go. The first bit you don't need to measure because it's the pointy bit, but here we go. Oh, we have a slip knot onto our hook, but not too tight, because this first bit, because it's so pointy, there's not many stitches and it's a little bit sort of tricky to get to. I'll put the foot like that. All right, I'm just trying to decide whether to bring the camera down or whether that is okay there. Right, I'm going to bring it down a little bit, so bear with me a second. Right, hopefully that's not too close now. I don't like it to blur, but I know you guys need to really see what my hands are doing as well. So we're going to start with just 2 chain. I don't really like this size hook because I have a tendency to bend them, because I don't think they're very strong hooks. I wish they'd make them in steel. as soon as you get to 2.5, and then well, from 2 upwards, they're not steel, or they're not a strong steel anyway, and they're just not very good. The smaller ones are great because they're solid steel, so I can put some pressure on them, and the bigger ones obviously are solider anyway. But yes, this sizing always winds me up, and the amount I go through, because I end up bending them here. I put too much pressure on them. So we're going to do 3 double crochets into that very first chain. 1, 2, this is the fiddly bit, but when you get past a few rows it's all right, and 3. So that's our 3. We're working in an amigurumi style for a while, so it's going to be working in a spiral system. The next one we're going to increase by 1, so we're going to do 2 in the first one, and then a 1 and a 1. That's all we're going to do. But finding that first stitch can be a bit difficult, so be careful. You don't want to add on too much at this point. So we need 2 in that first one. Then we're going to have a 1. Make sure you are picking up both parts of the stitch as well, because it's very easy not to do that. So, oh, nearly lost it. I don't want to lose it at this point. That's a 1 I was doing, wasn't it? A 1 and a 1. So we now have 4 stitches. We're going to do that again, but can you see how it's curling round? It's almost impossible to see the stitches. So I'm just going to take my hook out a little bit, and I'm going to try and turn it right side out, which is very difficult. And just carefully ease it through with my hook. Very difficult when it's this small, I know. Also it goes through the hole there. So I've sort of turned it round. It helps a little bit to see your stitches, but it looks almost impossible, doesn't it, at this point? This is why I say take your time. So the next one, got to make sure it's here. If you're not sure, sort of give it a little pull and think, oh, it's coming out of that one, so it's got to be that one, my next one. Let's say as soon as we get to about 6 stitches, it'll be a lot easier. This will make us 5. So we're going to have 2 in our first one, and then we're going to have 1 in each of the next 3, because we increased by 1 last time, didn't we? So that's given us 3 this time. So that's a 1, already starting to feel a bit better. 2 and 3. Okay, so we now have 5 stitches, and it's starting to sort of get a little bit wide, and you can see how we get a little point here, which is important really for an elf slipper. So we're now going to do 2 in the next one, and then 1 in the following 4. So we're going to increase again by 1, which will give us 6 stitches, which will make us feel like we're back to normal a little bit. So we have a 2. Yeah, it's definitely feeling a little bit easier now. And then we're going to have a 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we now have 6 stitches. Just pull that middle bit a little bit tighter, because we don't want a hole forming here. In fact, when you come to sewing up, because this is such a tight point, turn it inside out and sew that in. Don't just rely on cutting it off. You do need to sew it in a bit, because you're allowing the risk of a hole coming. In fact, I do a little knot and then sew it in to make sure. So we're now going to increase by 3, so it's going to go a lot bigger now and make it a lot easier for you. We're going to have 2 in our first one, and then we're going to have 1 in the next one. And we're going to do that combination 3 times. So here we go. So we're going to have a 2. And we're going to have a 1. That's our first set. We've got that 3 times. So we do it again. We have a 2 in this one. And we're going to have 1 in that one. That's our second set completed. We're going to have a 2. And we're going to have a 1. That's that round finished. We now have, let me double check, we have 9 stitches, and we're actually, look, it's starting to create a little triangle now, which is what we're looking for. We now have 2 rounds of just double crochet. Again, reminding you that these are English terms when I'm doing all these double crochets, so because otherwise if you sort of fall into thinking it's an American one, you'll have a very large slipper, so we don't want that. Unless you're making it for a very large doll, perhaps. So I'm just going to count 9. There's no point trying to squeeze the stitch marker in at this point, is there? So let's just count 9. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. That's our first round. We need another round of 1 double crochet in each of those 9. So off we go, count 9 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. I'm now going to mark off where I am, because it's always best to, because when I'm chattering I end up losing track. So that is where we are now. Oh, I shook the table when I did that. I do need to be careful. We're now going to do another increase. We're going to have 2 in the first stitch and then 1 in each of the next 2. That is a combination times 3, so it'll give us 12, so it's going to be even easier to hold. So are we ready for this? So we have 2 in our first one. 1, 2, that's 2 in that first stitch, and then 2 individual ones. 1 and 1. Yep, that is set 1. Again, another set. So 2 in this one, and then a 1 and a 1. Again, 2 in the next one, a 1 and a 1. It's getting way easier to hold now. We should have 12 stitches. So we're there. We're now going to do just 1 double crochet round, so we know we've got 12 stitches. If you wish to put your stitch marker in, you can at this point, but I'm going to count the 12 because I don't think it's that much to count. In a perfect world, if you've got some nice quiet when you are working, it is best to actually count, especially with it being amigurumi, because, you know, it's a spiral system and you sort of, not the stitch marker moves, but your start point actually moves very slightly if you're going to count exactly. So 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So you can see we've got a real point coming now. Almost, you could make that into a tiny Christmas tree, couldn't you? That's the sort of size it is at the moment. So again, we'll mark that one off. And we have another increase row. We're not far off finished with the increasing, but it's got to get over a toe at least. Look, so we see what we're doing. It's not quite wide enough yet. So we're going to do an increase again, which is going to be 2 in the first stitch and then 1 in the following 3. So you can see how that pattern system's forming. And you're going to do that 3 times and it will give us 15 stitches. So we're going to have a 2, a 1, a 1 and a 1. That is set number 1. Set number 2, we have a 2 in this first stitch and then we have a 1, a 1 and a 1. Second set done. Third set coming up. So we have a 2 and then we have a 1, a 1 and a 1. So we now have 15 stitches. I'm just looking what I've marked off there. I don't know why I've put some lines there. I'll just ignore my own pattern. And we're going to do another increase. It's going to be 2 in that first one. And this time 4 individual ones times 3 to give us 20 stitches. Does that give us 20 stitches? I can't count. That gives you 18, doesn't it? Because we're increasing by 3 and it was 15 before. What? 15, 16, 17. It is 18. I can't count. I will change that. Good job I noticed that though, because when I come to write the pattern up, I need to not have typed 20. Oh, didn't finish that stitch, did I? Didn't finish that stitch off. I'll do that one again before we start the next round. There we go. So, as I did say, we're not doing 20, we're doing 2 in 1 and 1 in 4, which will give us an increase of 3. I will double check that's right, which will give us 18 stitches. So we have 2 in our first one, and then we have a 1, a 2, a 3 and a 4. That's set number 1. We have a 2, we have a 1, a 2, a 3 and a 4. That's set number 2. Set number 3, we have a 2, And then we have 1, 2, 3 and 4. Ray, or not 4, there's number 4. Number 4. Let's have a little look how it's sitting on this foot now. You can see now we're sort of over the toe width, which is what we're wanting, isn't it? So now we have up to 18 stitches. We're going to do some double crochet rounds, and we're going to be doing 6 of them. So basically we've sort of done the pointy bit, and now we're working up to here, because it does change sort of direction when we get to this point. So again, pencil at the ready, stitch marker in place. Gone for a little Christmassy themed one. This is one I got from What Mustard made last year. So I've got a few Christmas ones, which are really cute. I like these enamelled ones as well. Right, so pin that in, and we're going to count our 6 rounds. I know some of you will go ahead of me now, so you may have paused, or if you are a beginner, or you may have cursed me if you're a beginner for this bit. But the best thing to do is maybe look what I'm doing, pause it, you do your little bit, and then come back. You can slow me down in the settings, but it does sound a bit weird if you do that. So this is round 1 of the 6 we are going to do. So I'm not going to go too slow now. I'll try and take it steady. But if you sort of think it's too fast, just pause me and, like I said, do your 6 rounds and come back to me then. Some of you have probably already done the 6 while I was talking. This is almost round number 1. I mean, there's only 18 stitches, so they don't take too long to do. It's not a quick make, this, but it's best to take your time anyway and get it right. But remember, there's 2. Obviously, I'm only showing you 1, aren't I? But there are going to be 2 feet. Right, so I'll mark that down. That's number 1 of my 6. Always best to mark down, especially when you're chattering or you've got distractions. So this is round 2. It's definitely feeling a lot easier to work with now. It is tricky when you're doing that pointy bit, I must admit. And I was sort of cursing when I was doing it, but so relieved when I got past it. But if you take your time, make sure you're picking up both pieces of the stitch, because if you don't, you're going to get a lumpy toe. And that's not going to look too good on your little elf slippers here. They're almost there for round 2. That's round 2. That was nice and quick. Mark it down. And do some of this wool a little bit before it drops off the table. So off we go again for round 3. Now the yarn I am using, as much as I say it is a 4-ply, this is a 4-ply sort of sock type yarn. You can tell it's got like quite a high wool content. I haven't got the ball band on it, so I couldn't tell you exactly. But I know it is because you can feel it, and it's a little bit rough on my fingers. And there's little tiny weeny hairs you see as you're crocheting. I do love sock yarns to make doll items. I mean, I know I say this one's a bit rough, but some of them, if they're the hand-dyed ones and everything, they're so soft and gorgeous. I have a treat coming up, which I will be doing the video. I have to check with the people who have made it when they would like me to put it out, because it's a Christmas Eve treat box, a wool one. Can't wait. So excited. So I'm trying to get all my jobs done. And then when we come to Christmas Eve, hopefully everything will be done and I'll be all nice and calm and I can enjoy some of my yarns for myself. Right, that was round 3. We're on round 4 now. As soon as we get past all this toe as well, which we're not far off, it'll move a little bit quicker because we're actually going to change stitches as well. So this is 4, I said, wasn't it? Yeah. Good job. See, that's why I write it down, because as I said that, I sort of got quickly sneakily looked across to see what I'd marked off. So this is round 4. This would make a tiny hat. I'm terrible for this. I really shouldn't do this. Concentrate on what I'm doing, but as I'm doing something, I can see other shapes and patterns coming. But don't you think, you know, little tiny hat, little elf hat? I have made little elf hats before, but I haven't actually used it with this count combination, and I think this is actually better than the ones I've made previous. So I might have to mark that part of the pattern down for something else. So that was 4. This wool is going to fall on the floor if I'm not careful. There we go. Round number 5. I know, like I said, this is just a normal yarn. This wasn't that expensive. I know it's a wool and it's a sock one, but it wasn't an expensive yarn. It's just a nice priced, middle priced one perhaps. If you can afford to ever treat yourself to some sort of hand dyed artisan 4-ply, Etsy is a fabulous place to get it from. I get a lot of mine from Attic Spin Dye. And oh, the colours, every time I see their colours on Instagram, I'm like, no, I need one of those. But it won't be so bad. I'm just slowly getting a collection of yarn. Right, that's number 5. So we're on our final round now. So I'm getting a collection of yarn rather than actually making anything, because the colours are just so beautiful. But the quality of the yarn, in fact, most of them that I've bought off Etsy, I know my sister sent me a link for somebody on eBay as well, and you know, they're proper little mini skeins, which your mini skeins are great if you're wanting to make smaller doll bits and pieces. I need to make sure I'm staying in camera there. I've pulled away a little bit. Do have a tendency to pull my work towards me, which is not helpful at all for you guys. That's why I do try and sort of say before I do it, like now I'm saying I'm doing 6 rounds. So if I've pulled it away from the camera slightly, you know it's still 6 rounds. I do try and keep in the middle. Most of the time I do nowadays. My early films were a nightmare for that, because I kept pulling it away, not getting used to the camera. Right, we are round. That is our 6. Let's have a look on the foot. Yep, can you see? So we're right up the instep now, which is where we want to be. And we're going to actually change the direction of our stitches. Where am I? I have got... That is our 6. Right, I'm just seeing what I have written. I don't know. What have I written? You know, it's terrible when you write your own patterns. I'll give you a quick brief sort of look. Look at the state of that. And then I do it as I'm making it. And then when I come back to do something like this, I go, oh, what have I actually done? Right, because there I've written DC 6 rounds. Yay. I know what I've done. I know where I'm going now. So we're going to take that off. And I'm going to take that out because... mind you, no, I'm going to put it back in just for this first round, because I need to know where my start point is. But after this round, it'll be obvious, so it won't matter. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do the double crochet round, but I'm going to stop short of 1 stitch. I'm going to stop there, and then I will be turning the work. So here we go. So it's a double crochet round. But as I say, I'm going to stop short of 1 stitch, and then I'm going to be working in rows and not rounds. And then so we can take the stitch marker out then, because it does get in the way a little bit. Right, I'm just going to pause a second, guys, because my daughter keeps ringing me. So I need to check what she's wanting. So I'll be back in a second. Right, it's just a quick pause there. Just double checking. I keep checking now that it's actually videoing, because I'm scared that I'm going to get all the way through to the end of the boot and then it's not going to be there. So anyway, I answered the call. They're away at the moment, so I needed to answer that. Right, so we're almost there, almost there, almost there. So I'm going to say where the stitch marker is. There is the stitch I'm going to miss, okay? So from there, I'm going to do a chain. I'm going to take this stitch marker out. I'm going to turn the work. I'm going to do a double crochet directly below that chain. It'll feel a bit weird, this, again, for a couple of rows. And I'm just going to do a double crochet all the way around until I get to that 1 stitch that I missed, because that one creates a little bit of a gap. So you can see what I'm doing. It's a little bit hard to hold because you're working like on the inside at the moment, but after you've done a couple of rows it won't feel like that. It just feels sort of a bit weird at the minute. In fact, see this bit, I'm going to tuck it in because it's going to annoy me. There we go, it's out of the way. So just a double crochet almost round, but I say we miss 1 stitch at the front, and then that is literally the top of your shoe. I keep calling it a shoe, then I keep calling it a slipper, and then I've called it a boot, footwear, whatever. whatever you would like it to be. Right, I've got one more. So can you see what happens? We've got this little tiny gap in the middle there, which is good, because now we're going to do another chain. We're going to turn our work and we're going to do another double crochet row, because they're rows now. You have to watch me for that, because I'll slip back to saying rounds, but they are rows. So all the way around, double crochet row. We're going to change stitch size in a second as well. And then we need to talk about you checking the measurement on your doll, because if your tension's slightly different, I'm pretty well somewhere in the middle as far as tension's concerned. My work used to be incredibly tight, which was awkward because everything I made was smaller than it should have been. But I'm somewhere in the middle now, I would say. But check on your tension, because you may need either an extra row or maybe one less. I'm not sure on that. It depends on your work. So I'm round, so you can see how it is forming. So I'll pop it on the foot again. So that is the top of the foot. Yep, so you can see how we're going to be working around the side of the foot now. And we're actually going to move, I'm going to mark this off so I know where I'm going. Done. We're going to be moving on to half treble rows. Now I've got down, I've done 5, but we do need to check on the foot. I don't know about you guys, but when I do my first one, because obviously that's when I'm making my pattern, my work seems a lot tighter. When I move on to my second one, it releases off a little bit. So sometimes my first one ends up being a sample rather than the final product. But considering I've already made another one of these, in fact, what I am going to use, as much as this is a Smartdoll, I know I'm digressing here, this is a Smartdoll sort of footwear, I do actually think they would make really cute little decorations. You could pop a little gift in there and hang it on the tree, and I think they would look really cute as well. So they don't have to be a Smartdoll thing. In fact, I'm going to try and sort of explain on the thumbnail that it's not just a Smartdoll. So it's a Smartdoll slipper or Christmas decoration, because not everybody's got the dolls and they might want to make a little elf shoe for their Christmas tree, and it's a nice size to actually pop a gift in there. So let's get going with this. If we're going to be changing to our half trebles, we need to do 2 chain, and in this case this counts as the first stitch. With the double crochets it didn't. So turn your work, yarn around into the next stitch, pull the yarn through, 3 on the hook, and pull through the 3. Okay, so yarn round into the space, pull it through all 3, and off we go with our first round of our 5. But like I say, it depends on your measurement. I would measure it around 4, because that might be enough depending on what your tension's like, 'cause you don't want the slipper to be too big, unless you're making it for a slightly larger doll, because the Smartdoll's foot size is a little bit different to the Dolphy's and a lot of the other 1/3 scale BJDs. So if you're making it for one of those, you will need to keep measuring, definitely. The width probably not greatly different, but the length of the foot will be. A bit fiddly holding this at the minute. Like I say, after this row it will be a lot better than that. Don't forget that very last one, because that time it was just the double crochet one. We need to catch it up. So round, what round? You see, I told you I'd slip back to saying rounds. Row. So we need 2 chain for this row. We turn our work again and off we go with our half trebles. This is our second half treble row. It gives a slightly different texture as well. So you've got the point of the shoe showing one sort of texture, and then as we get to the main part of the foot, it changes. So it gives it a little bit more interest rather than just being straight amigurumi. You could have just done it in double crochets if you wanted to, but it would take a lot more rows. That's all. That's what I say. Adds a little bit of interest to the shoe. Now this is where people forget. They think, oh, that's the last one, because it's very obvious. It's not. There is that little bit there, but because it's been a chain on the previous row, it's a little tricky sometimes to get into, but you do need it, otherwise you're going, oh, I drop it, otherwise you're going to be decreasing. So we do need that very last bit. Go on in and behave. There we go. It doesn't want to do it, does it? Last attempt. Well, it's not last attempt because I've got to make sure it works. There we go. That will do me. So I'll mark that one down. So we have 2 rows now. So 2 chain, we turn, and off we go again. Our half trebles. Half trebles are a weird one. If you are not sort of that familiar with the UK terms, you probably would need a conversion for that. I think most people get the double crochet treble thing, but a half treble's a weird stitch. So because it's in between, it is one that can throw you. If you were doing actually this for a Christmas decoration, as much as we're working in 4-ply, you could do it in double knit, couldn't you, if it was just a Christmas tree decoration? Or if you were doing it for a larger doll. I mean, I'm not quite sure how large this would work, but I don't know, an American Girl or something like that. You could sort of manipulate the size in there by just changing your yarn. Let's have a quick look on this foot then, shall we? So slide the foot in. Now, can you see I'm coming quite close to the end? I think it will be 5 rounds for myself, because the next one's going to come to right there. Because when we get to this last one, we'll finish off and then we need to sew it up. So it needs to be tight-ish, but you do need to be able to get it on and off the doll, because obviously we're going up the ankle next. So before I turn, I like to do my chains before I turn, then I turn. I find that easier. So this is row number 4. Or not. You know, every time I say I'm nearly at the end, I drop the stitch. It's terrible. Ta-da! There we go. So row number 4 for me. You need to keep checking on that doll foot in case you need an extra one, or in case you don't need an extra one. 4 might be enough for you. Very hard to get size-ins. It's like with anything. It's like even with garments. If you buy, I don't know, say a cardigan pattern, for example, for yourself, if your tension is slightly different, it's not always going to come out like the pattern says. I know there's tension squares and everything you can practice, but it's still not always that easy. Right, that was our 4th. So I'm going to do one more, because I know, because I just did a quick measure, that I need that 5th one. So off I go. 1 up in, 1 half treble in each stitch, and then we're going to be fastening off, because the next bit is the shaping up the foot, but we need to sew this end up together first. I know there's some cases where you can actually sort of sew it up afterwards, but I think it's easier to get it out of the way, and then it's a job done, isn't it? Almost there. And then I'm going to be seeing if I've got enough red. It looks like a tiny little ball of red, but when they're wound up like that, because that's one that was a skein that I've wound up rather than a ball, they're amazing how much is on one. Right, ta-da! Pull that through a bit. Where's my scissors? Now, I just need enough so I can sew the back up, so it's not a huge amount required. So let's fasten that off first. Pull it through, and I need my wool needle, which is here. I use quite a sharp one, especially when it's 4-ply, so it's quite a fine wool needle there. So I'll thread my needle up first, and then I'll explain what I'm actually doing. So I don't want to sew it, that's right side, so I don't want to sew it up right side, so I'm just folding it over like this. So that's, you don't need to turn it all inside out, it's just that bit. Pick up the other side, and just a little quick whip stitch all the way down there, making sure there's no holes, make sure you've sort of filled all the gaps, and then we can just fasten off. I'm going to do another knot because I'm always scared of things coming undone. Perhaps I'm a little bit neurotic about that, I don't know, but always make sure your work's secure, especially if you're doing it for other people. Perhaps not so bad when you're doing it for yourself, but I think it's important you finish your work off nicely. So we can fasten that off now completely. We are still going to be using the green. I'm just going to unfold this to show you, because we need to now work on this part. So you can see there's so many rows that are actually in the green before we go to the red. But when we get to the red, we have to turn the work inside out, because you'll be working on this side, but then when you fold it over, you want a right side showing. It would not be the end of the world if you didn't, but I think it does make it a lot neater. So I will leave the slipper like that. You see, I've changed again from shoe to slipper. And we're going to carry on with this green, and we have to pick up our stitches all the way around there. Now, I counted before that I got 28 stitches around, so approximately that's what you're looking for. The only difference it will make is when you come to these scallops, if your stitches are slightly different. Now, obviously, because these are half trebles, it's a slightly longer stitch, so sometimes you're sort of picking up a bit extra there. So it's just a case of trying to sort of keep count of what you're doing. I'm going to start at the back, and then I know where my start point is, don't I? I need to pick up a better piece than that. I need to make sure it's nice and solid. There we go. So I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to try and pick it up anyway. I think it's that bit, that's that stitch. I think that's where I've sewed it up. I don't like that. I'm going to go to that one further over. And twist, 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 and pull through and chain. Now I've done the chain, but I'm going to do a double crochet directly below it, anchors it. Now up to you if you try and crochet that in while you're working. It does get it out the way, so I am going to do that, but you can sew it in afterwards if you want. So I'm now going to try and do 28. So that was 1, that is 2, 3, or not, that's 4, so I'm trying to keep that flat at the same time, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, if you think, if you're in 25, we need to be 14 here. I've lost count. What was I doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Going around this corner bits of bane. 10. I'm now going to cut that bit off. Make sure you cut the right bit. Sounds silly, but I've done it loads of times and cut the wrong bit. There we go. So that's 10. I've got 12, so that's okay. 12. No, it's not. I want 28. No, 12. 13, 14 is what I want. And that, look, because I've hit the middle point on 14, I know I should get another 14 up that side. So oh, not the camera, be careful. So hopefully that's going to do it. So I'll count another 14. 1, 2, little one in there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that thin bit again, that's better, 13 and 14. And I'm going to be going into the next one to do another round of double crochets, because we're working in rounds again now. We keep going from rounds to rows, but we're going to do 4 rounds. Let me double check that. 28, yeah, pick up round, and then double crochet round times 4 is what I've written, which is what we need. So we've got 4 rounds, and we don't need a stitch marker because we know when we get to the back we're already around, aren't we? So off we go. 4 rounds. Now if you want to make this longer, you can make it a longer boot. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just the size I went with. I know elves would have different sort of length boots, so you could make a mixture. You could do some shorter ones or some longer ones, but this needs to be long enough at least so you can get a turnover. So I would say this is probably about its minimum. So just one double crochet into every stitch. So that middle front bit there's a bit tricky to get round, but just a case of sort of moving it with your fingers and you will get there. See, we're almost round on our first one. I have not got a clue how long it takes to make these. I'll be curious to see at the end of the video. Now obviously, because I'm talking in the video, it takes a little bit longer than it would if you've got some nice quiet time to do it. You might be a little bit faster than me anyway. Ta-da! That's round one. If you're being good, you're counting, you've got 28 stitches there. If you're not, you're just going sort of from the back all the way around to the back again, which is what I'm doing. But we did count, we did have 28, so unless I've lost one somewhere, which I shouldn't have, but it does happen, you know what it's like. Sometimes we lose stitches and we haven't got a clue why. Well, I do anyway. So off we go. You can see the shape of the boot starting to come now. I've got the cat crying outside the door. That makes it sound like she's outside. She's not. I'm in my craft room inside the house. And she's after coming in, but she's a bit of a pain when I am got wool running about. So that is why usually she's not in here. She can come in when I've finished, when I've put everything away. So we're almost round for our two. It's feeling easier to manipulate now as well, because it's just sort of, it's got past that sort of corner bit, which was a bit tricky to get round the front, wasn't it? Nearly dropped it. Right, that's another round. So that's two. So we've only got 2 more rounds in the green. And can you see how we're getting the shape of the foot? Looks like a little medieval shoe, doesn't it, at the moment? Which, so if you were having to do anything like that, a little bit of cosplay or something for your doll, you can make a little medieval shoe, which would be quite cute. Probably quicker to make out of fabric if that's what you were wanting, but you could always crochet it. Oh, that's the cat run up the stairs. I'm saying it's easier, but that bit still gets in the way, doesn't it? Just take your time around that front bit. We need to keep your stitches even, and sometimes when you're sort of having to manipulate and move things, your stitches can lose their tension in that area. If you have to slow down, you do. It's not a race. Hopefully you are crocheting because you enjoy it, so take your time and just make some nice little shoes. One more for round 3, and we have our last round in green. Off we go. Yeah, I must finish that other one, like I say I did, but then I realised I'd not videoed it, and I'll put a little hanger on it, I think, and pop it onto the Christmas tree. Not that I've got the Christmas tree out yet, and we're the 1st of December today, I think. I don't even know what day I'm on. It's like all over the place. Yes, we are the 1st of December today, I'm sure. This is Wednesday. No, it's not. It's Tuesday. It's not the 1st of December till tomorrow. Ah, never mind. I'll get there eventually. But yeah, I've not really got my Christmas stuff out. I've got this little tree in my craft room, obviously, to do my bits and bobs with this. But otherwise, we've not got anything out yet. So a lot of people have, I've noticed. I keep wanting to, but it's having the time to sort it all out. Right, we are round, and that is my number 4. Now, you can just pick up the red like this, but because I'm going to be turning it inside out, I'm actually going to fasten it off. Oh, that was whizzing about a bit. So I'm just going to fasten it off and get it out of the way. And for now, I'm just going to tuck that in an ideal world, sew that in now, get it out of the way, So I'm wanting to pick up in the red, but I want to pick up on the other side. So I'm going to partly turn it inside out. That didn't work, did it? I put that away and it's still not worked. So I'm just going to push the rest of the slipper inside there. I don't want it in my way. You don't have to mess about pulling it through all the way. And so you can see I'm actually on the wrong side now. So let's grab this little ball of wool, and because I'm just going to angle the doll so it doesn't roll off the table, it's going to roll about because it's just this little tiny ball. It's a similar yarn. It is a 4-ply, but this one is a sock yarn definite, because that's why I know, because I've wound it up and they usually need to be wound up. So I'm just going to pick up roughly at the back. If you want to crochet that in at the same time, you can do. I might do that just to get it out of the way. So here we go. I'm going to do a chain, a double crochet back into it, anchors it. Now we're going to have some double crochet rounds again. We're going to have another 6 rounds. You do need that many to be able to get the turn. That is why I've done the 6. But then all we've got is the scallop, so we're not far off finished, are we? It's not going to take that long. When you've got 2 pieces like this, it is a bit tricky to hold it in place if you're crocheting over it, so you don't have to. I'm just going to do it because I want to sort of get it out the way so as you can see what I'm doing. So, look, you see I've got to pick up both parts. So, with 1 double crochet all the way around. So I'm just going to smooth that off, make sure it's doing it nicely. As it wouldn't have been the end of the world if you didn't turn it inside out. You just that this part here would be a slightly different texture. Because to be honest though, I think with crochet you can almost get away with it being inside out. It just gives you a different texture, that's all, doesn't it? Right, I'm now going to get rid of those 2. Because I've crocheted them in far enough, I think, and make sure I don't catch the yarn I'm using. Pull that away, and I'm going to snip it. And now it's not in our way, we can carry on just a double crochet all the way round to the back of the heel again. That's better. As if pros and cons with crocheting in, you do have to make sure it's either tied off or it's not going to go anywhere, but because otherwise it can come undone. But at least it does get it out of the way. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Purely depends on what I'm making. Almost there. And I'm going to jump straight. Oh, there's one more there, I missed it. And then straight into the top of the first one and another double crochet round. So I'm going to mark off. So I said we've got 6. So that's my 1 of the 6. And off we go again. Just 1 double crochet into each. Meanwhile, I'll just keep watching that tiny ball of yarn. If worse comes to the worst, if I really think it's going to run out, I will do less here. And I'm going to have to show you guys the scallop to actually sort of give the little pointy bits. I don't know what you're like. I hate it when it's coming towards the end of a ball and you've got a project and it's nearly done and you might only need 1 more round, but no, that ball is going to run out. You know it's going to run out and you keep looking at it and looking at it, and so quite often it actually works, but there's usually more on the wool than you actually think. And just check I'm still in the middle there. To keep looking up occasionally, checking the camera so I know where I am. Right, round 2. Off we go for round number 3. Looking forward to doing the photos for this one. I've redressed Mariah in her candy cane dress. She had a gorgeous dress yesterday. It was a little gift from J-Dolls UK. Well, little gift, it was a lovely gift. I got a few things. It was amazing, but I needed to put her back in a candy cane so as I can do the photo shoot for this. I need to do some pictures of the dolls and their different outfits. So this is round 3, which I'm almost round 3. and that means we're halfway there. Right, that is round 3. Just 3 more rounds to go. The little scallop at the end is very, very simple, so don't worry about that. All they are is trebles, but it's where they put the treble. It's amazing what you can do with the just 3 stitches really. If you've got a treble, well, even a half treble, I know we've been using them, but if you've got a treble or a double crochet, maybe just 2 stitches, you can create some really pretty edging. I love doing edging on blankets. I'm halfway through, well, more than halfway through, I've almost finished it actually, a baby blanket at the moment, and I need to do a little scallop all the way around there, and this is the scallop I'm going to be doing. Right, that is round 4. Round number 5. So we're in our last 2 rounds. You see this? Look at this! Ah, it's so little, but I still think there's a load on there. It's very compact. When I've wound them up, when I do them into balls, I do them really, really tight. So it's amazing how much is actually on it. I will get to the end of it, and I will also order some more 4-ply red. I keep saying that because I really need 4-ply red. In fact, that ought to be my job after I've done this. Order the yarn, because obviously things are getting busier now, and red's probably going to be a harder colour to get hold of, because obviously everyone's doing it for Christmas, aren't they? So I need to have a little look. Right, that is round 5. So we're going to have our last round, so I'm just going to continue round because I don't need to mark off 5, because I know this is my last one. So just last round and then a little scallop, and we can turn our little shoe, slipper, boot the right way round, and we can look at maybe adding some detail. Last half to go. And we get to that back, nearly there. I would say, what, 1 more stitch? Right, and I'd say I am round. We still need to do the scallop before we do turn it the right way around. Just holding the camera there so it didn't fall. There we go. Right, so we're going to go on with this scallop. So I've missed 1, and I'm going to do 5 trebles. 2, 3, 4 and 5. I'm going to miss 1 stitch, and I'm going to double crochet, or not double crochet. I will try and double crochet. Slipped off the hook there. Right, so double crochet. I'm going to miss 1, and then I'm going to do 5 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I'm going to miss 1, and I'm going to do a double crochet. You're going to keep doing that. You're going to miss 1 and 5 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to miss 1, and we're going to do a double crochet. Miss 1, 5 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Miss 1, double crochet, miss 1, 5 trebles. So you can see the combination that it's doing, and the yarn is slowly disappearing below my fingers. 3, 4 and 5. We're going to miss 1, double crochet, miss 1, 5 trebles, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, miss 1, double crochet, looks like we can fit one more in, miss 1, 5 half trebles, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the last stitch, miss 1 and a slip stitch will do because it's our very last stitch. Well, and I did it, still with a tiny mini bit of yarn left. Did it nicely there. So just fasten off. You would obviously sew those ends in, but I'm just going to turn it all the right side out so you can see what we've got. So give it a little shake about. So I said that looks inside out at the moment, but when soon as you turn it over, it's right side, and that is why I did it that way round. Now, as far as the embellishment is concerned, entirely up to you. I'm going to show you briefly how I did the beads here, but I'm just going to have to pause a second to let the dog out, and I will be back with you with that one. Now, as far as the beads are concerned, this is what I used. Now, I wanted them to hang sort of like little droplets rather than just a sewn on bead. So it's entirely up to you how you do it. But this is how I did it. I needed a tiny bead. The cat has come in. There she is. Straight across in the way, as always. So basically, I've got a little tiny bead there in the centre. I'm now going to take it off my needle. And I'm going to try and find both ends. I'm doing this very clumsily at the moment. There we go. I'm now going to thread it back on to my needle. So what has happened is I threaded the little tiny weeny bead on, single strand, then I doubled it over and put it back into there. And then I'm just going to pick up the bead that I wanted. So I've got these really pretty gold ones here. So you can see it sort of hangs rather than just sort of be a bead that's sort of sewn on. And then basically just picking up one of the 5 points and stitch it on. And that's it. Obviously stitch it on a few times, make sure it's nice and solid, like I said, because I wanted it to sort of hang rather than just be stitched on. But if you have got bells, I think that would be so cool. But it's just that my bells were all different colours, so I didn't want to do that. I wanted the gold effect. So basically, that is it. We have our little elf slippers. Obviously, I've got to finish this one. I've got to finish the other one for the Christmas tree as well. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you do enjoy my videos, please like, subscribe and share. And as I said, this is not just a smart doll thing. This could be a Christmas decoration too. I'm going to be taking some photos of Mariah on it, and I might take a photo of perhaps one with a candy cane in, something like that. I'll see how the candy cane fits. I think that might be quite cute. But thank you for watching, and hope to see you all very soon. And bye-bye for now.